Welcome once again to another episode of B&B Hockey Talk. I'm your host, Aaron Bloxel, my co-host, Mr. Matt Balzer, and a great weekend of hockey. Some ups and downs, especially if you're a Canucks fan. Some teams like the New Jersey Devils still off to a hot start. The Boston Bruins off to a hot start. We got a loaded show for you guys today, so join us. Let's get right into it. Our first topic of discussion. It's absolutely all over the radio and Twitter and everything here in Vancouver. Mike Matheson, defenseman, Florida Panthers. I thought it was a good, clean hit with excessive pile drive after, which I didn't think was necessary. Suspended 2 games today by the NHL. Do you think it was justified, or do you think it was too much or not enough? What are your thoughts, Matt?
Well, just as a Canuck fan in general, I think I'm just happy that they actually suspended Matheson just with all the Kadri hit on Daniel Sedin, and I could go on and on about non-suspensions. But I'm just happy that we actually got something, because it's just like it's one of those plays where you look at it, it's like it's not penalized. The guy hasn't been suspended before. It's just like at most it's like you'll probably get a fine. But props for the player safety department for coming down with the suspension. Of course, we're Canuck fans, so we're going to be a bit biased here. But what I thought was that the initial hit was clean, but there was no need for him to throw him down like that. I know Pedersen just embarrassed him, breaking his ankles just a matter of seconds before that play. But if you watch the replay, the puck is nowhere to be found. If you watch Reimer, he's like tracking the puck across to the other side of the ice already, and then he decides to throw him down like that. And I know Matheson was matched up against Pedersen all night. Pedersen scored his goal right in front of him too with a nice snipe, and they were battling all night. But yeah, I'm happy the NHL came down with the 2-game suspension. Would I liked a couple more games, just because Pedersen's supposed to be out 7 to 10 days, so that could be up to 4 games. I wish it was longer, but I'm glad the league stepped up.
It actually sounds like right now that Pedersen may only miss the next 2 games on this road trip. That's what at least the Canucks are saying. I thought it should have been a penalty. I was surprised it wasn't a penalty with the ref standing right there. It sounds like, I know the Vancouver fans are mad that there's no retribution or nobody, quote-unquote, went after Matheson to stand up for their teammate. It sounds like nobody really knew what happened, though, until after the game. And in fairness to the other Canuck players, if that's what happened, because it was just kind of along in the play, a lot of people didn't know. Pedersen went off, and nobody really saw it because it was, it looked like a regular hit until he drove him down into the ice. Absolute props to the player safety development, though. I think this is more like if this was Michael Granlund or Jay Beagle or somebody, I don't think there would have been a suspension. I think this is the way the NHL stepping in to say, hey, you can't do that to the star players in this league. Because if Matheson did that to Patrick Kane or Sidney Crosby or anybody like that, he probably would have got suspended as well, and fans would be up in arms. And I'm not saying Pedersen's up in that class yet, but he's definitely one of the bright up-and-coming stars in this league. And for what? For absolutely getting beat multiple times in hockey plays, I don't think you should be allowed to take out your anger like that on a player. So props to them for stepping up. Final words on Pedersen before we move on.
Yeah, well, I know the retribution thing, like I think hearing Green's comments and some of the players today, it was something that looked like nobody really knew, because it was behind the play and stuff, and with so little time in the game. But I think the frustrating thing is when Jim Benning comes out before the season saying that he's signed guys like a Branson, Roussel, Beagle, Schaller, so that the younger guys would basically have some like tougher guys like that would stand up if such cases like this happened. And to see like nothing right away and stuff, it sort of looks bad on the GM saying it's just like, hey, we went out and signed these guys, and then nothing happened after that. And of course, we don't play Florida until like January, so it's not like it's a team that we're gonna play in a couple weeks or anything. But especially with all like the team bonding like stuff and everything that they've pumped, it's like you would have wished somebody would have gone after him. Like I know there was a chance that somebody could gotten an earful at Matheson. I think in front of Anders Nielsen, he was in front, and Beagle gave him a couple of shoves, and Goodbranson was standing right behind him, and he didn't even look like that he knew Matheson was there. So there were chances like to at least get up in his face or something. Like I know you don't want to take like a stupid penalty or anything, being a tie game at the time, but they could have done something because you got the iPads on the bench and stuff. So
yeah,
that's
from what I heard though today on the radio, that none of the players really knew what had happened or who had done whatever to Pedersen. And Green said they never got a chance to look at the replay on the iPad until late in the game or at the end of the game. And he's fuming. He's angry about it. And he's made that clear to the league. But hey, the Canucks, they got to move on. They're in Pittsburgh tomorrow night. And another injury, Jay Beagle out 4 to 6 weeks with a broken forearm after blocking that slap shot, killing a penalty late in that game, I believe. I'm not sure who took the slap shot, but either way, those short cuff gloves that a lot of the players are wearing, I think are ridiculous. I think a lot of players would get less injured if they're wearing the regular cuff gloves. And I think Beagle's injury could have been prevented there if he had either wrist guards or the long cuff gloves on. So that's something to maybe see in the future from some of the players that are out there. Adam Gaudette called up by the Canucks for this road trip to replace those guys. Whether he gets into the lineup or not is yet to be seen, as Leipzig and Mott are able to also get into the lineup now. We'll see what the Canucks do tomorrow. New Jersey Devils off to a hot start, 3-0. Boston Bruins, after getting absolutely shellacked in the first game, 7-0 to the Capitals. Winners of 4 straight now. 8-2 against Detroit on the weekend. Lots of celebrating going on in the 7th and 8th goals. And kind of ironic after what Marchand said in the news. Why don't you fill us in on the New Jersey's hot start? Palmieri's already got 6 goals in those 3 games. And they're really going under the radar because a lot of other teams have already played 5 or 6 games. New Jersey's only played the 3. They're definitely a hot team. They got a plus 10 goal differential already in those 3 games. And Boston, I mean, they look great, but with that top line and all, but it's kind of ironic that they were celebrating so hard after the comments that Marchand said.
I know, yeah. Well, in Boston, like that top line, like Pastrnak with a hat trick, and also recording his 100th career goal in that game, and of course Bergeron with another 3 assists in that game. So the Boston's staying hot, and they're starting to get the goaltending. I know they sort of split between Halak and Rask actually to start the year. It hasn't all been Rask. And it looks like they're trying to rest him more throughout the year. And in New Jersey, as you brought up, Kyle Palmieri with his 3rd multi-goal game to start the season. And Keith Kincaid had 37 saves on 39 shots last night in their win. And, man, talk about goalie controversy. It's like the longer that Schneider's out, the more it looks like Kincaid is just solidifying that number 1 goalie spot there in New Jersey. Also a team that stayed hot, the Carolina Hurricanes. I know they finally got their first regulation loss, but, man, these guys put up shots on goal like no tomorrow.
I was going to actually bring that up as the next comment. Carolina and Winnipeg, great game last night. If you didn't see it, unreal back and forth action, unreal goaltending. Peter Mrazek and the backup goalie for Winnipeg, I can't even think of his name right now, had an unreal game.
Yeah, Laurent Brossoit.
Yeah, he had a heck of a game last night, and man, that was an entertaining hockey game. If you were able to catch any of it or any of the highlights, I recommend it. Carolina off to a hot start as well. What do you think? What do you think of Carolina? Because you started off there a bit before I cut you off. And of course, the Flower finally showed up in net for Vegas against Philadelphia.
Yeah. Well, it's Carolina. It's like their shots on goal. Like they had 43 shots on goal last night, but on their game on Saturday against the Wild, they had 57 shots on goal in a 5-4 overtime victory. They only gave up 23 shots. So if it wasn't for some poor goaltending, it should have been an absolute rout. But Devin Dubnyk stood on his head, including one incredible diving blocker save where he was actually interfered with right before that, and he was able to make the tremendous recovery. But I think with them, Sebastian Aho, who was named one of the 3 stars of the week, scoring 3 goals and 7 points, has been a tremendous force. He's actually moved to the center ice position to start the year. Last year, he played strictly on left wing. So the transition to center ice has basically been seamless for him. Along with those young guys, they continue to produce, especially guys like Svechnikov and Fugeli, I believe that's how you pronounce it. And some of the veterans, Justin Williams has had a hot start playing with Jordan Staal and Fugeli on a line. But yeah, Rod Brindamore, that system that he's brought in to start this season is just night and day from where Carolina's played like the past few years under Bill Peters, where it's basically been limiting shots and only getting like a couple goals every game. So basically night and day difference there. And with the Vegas Golden Knights, as he brought Marc-Andre Fleury, basically stole that game for Vegas with at least 3 or 4 just absolute highlight reel saves for his 49th career shutout, I believe, if I remember that off the top of my head. So, but Vegas also got some bad news on the injury front with Paul Stastny. At first, it looked like he was only going to miss 3 games. That has now turned into 2 months with a lower body injury. So some tough news for Vegas there.
On the West Coast, Anaheim Mighty Ducks off to a really great start as well. They're 4-1-1 with a lot of injured players as well. John Gibson holding down the fort there. What do you gotta say about the Ducks?
Yeah, well, the Ducks have been off. Other than the game on Saturday, basically they've been getting contributions from throughout their lineup, especially Maxime Comtois. Has been off to a really hot start. And Jacob Silverberg has basically gotten a point in just about every game for the Ducks. So with all the injuries, guys have been stepping up when they've needed to. But to bring up that game in Dallas that they played, I know they lost 5-3. They got outshot 51-25. And in the second period, they were up 3-0. But then they got outshot 30-4 in the second period.
Wow.
They gave up 30 shots in that second period, which is not good. And then Dallas took it to them, and they ended up winning 5-3. But yeah, Gibson's been like the backbone of that team. But yeah, all those young guys, including Sam Steele, who I should bring up as well, had a nice assist in that Dallas game as well. So it doesn't matter all the injuries. They have so far tremendous depth from their prospects, and they're stepping up.
Sagan and Ben for Dallas, of course, also having great starts offensively for their team. Roberto Luongo played, I believe, last year in his 1,000th game because they just honored him against Vancouver on the weekend. What do you want to say about Bobby Lou's great career so far?
Well, this is basically like my childhood idol for NHL players. He's my favorite NHL goalie. Basically, all my best memories are Luongo in that. Only the 3rd NHL goalie to get to 1,000 games, which is just crazy. Only Patrick Waugh and Martin Brodeur are the only goalies I've gotten there. Unfortunately, it's just I know he doesn't have like the individual awards, but I still think he's a surefire Hall of Famer. And hopefully his health continues to improve. I know he's out with the injury right now, but I think he still has a chance to get to Patrick Waugh for the second most wins. Brodeur is going to be untouchable there, but yeah, from start to finish in the gold medal win in Canada in 2010. I think that was one of the more underrated performances that he doesn't get talked about as much as some of the other guys, especially the save on Pavel Demitra in the semifinals, the big glove save to help them get to that gold medal game. But yeah, he's one of my favorite goalies, and every chance I get to see him play, it's not a bad game to watch.
Of course, it doesn't get talked about as much because the next Olympics, Carey Price was flawless. Lars Eller had some interesting comments to say about the Toronto Maple Leafs. What was your take on that?
I know, yeah. So that was interesting. So after facing Crosby and Malkin the night before, they went in against the Leafs with Matthews and Tavares. And basically, what I believe he said was basically, it's like after you playing that team, it's just like there's no really other team that really compares to them. Which, if you watch that Leafs start, that's not true. But Austin Matthews up to 10 goals in 6 games. He's only the 5th player in the modern era to get to 10 goals in 6 games, with the only other guys being Bobby Hull, Mike Bossy, Dino Ciccarelli, and some guy named Mario Lemieux. I think so. That's very impressive company. And also on a Leaf note, Morgan Riley set the record for the best start by a defenseman to start the season with 13 points in the first 6 games. So a lot of records being broken in Toronto right now.
Toronto actually up 2-0 on the LA Kings right now after the first period. Matthews with an assist. I wanted to bring that up because as much as Toronto's running away with it right now, I actually haven't felt like I look back at their schedule and they've played some significantly weaker teams to start. Teams like Ottawa, teams like Buffalo. They finally played a good team in Washington and still won 4-2 the other night. They're playing a good Kings team tonight. But their schedule coming up, they play back-to-back against Winnipeg coming up. And they start playing some of the harder teams because they go on a California road trip in LA, Anaheim, and San Jose as well. I think it's going to be – I'd like to wait till the end of October before – just to see where they're at, because I know a lot of people are rating them right now as the number 1 team in the league. I think they're definitely either 1 through 3. I don't know if I'm sold yet as them being the absolute favorites, only because of the way Boston's playing and the way New Jersey's playing as well. And I think Tampa Bay's yet to still find their legs. But what do you think? I'm going to throw this at you. Who are your top 3 teams right now in the league?
Yeah, so not anything in numerical order. So I think the Leafs would be up there, just with the amount of goal scoring that they have, and the goaltending that they've been getting from Freddie Anderson. Though he is out now day to day with a knee injury, so that's something to keep an eye on if you're a Leafs fan. But yeah, just with that offense, that power play, just all those hot starts, they'd be up there. The Tampa Bay Lightning, I would still actually have up there. They had a huge win on Saturday, 8-2. I think after getting beat by the Canucks, I think they were very fired up to go out and get a big win. I think they even scored their 8th goal with like less than a second left in the 3rd period. So they were not holding back. And just with the goaltending from Vasilevsky and that defense that they have, I'd have them in the top 3. And as I think about my 3rd team here, I would think the Carolina Hurricanes would be a dark horse just with their start that they have. And I'd also like to see, just with their goaltending sort of being a little up and down, even though they've been also sort of in the Toronto front with them being able to score lots of goals. Once when Scott Darling gets healthy, I know he's really revamped his game. I think he lost about like 20 pounds over the summer, and I like to see if he could get back to the way that he played in Chicago. And Chicago is also another team that's gone to a hot start. I think all 5 of their games have gone to overtime so far this year, and they're 3-0-2. And it looks like in that news-wise, Thursday they could potentially get Corey Crawford back in the lineup.
That would really help them.
Yes, because right now they've just been riding Cam Ward to start the year, and so far he's done actually a pretty admirable job of keeping them in every game. But that's not a goalie that you want to keep as your number one goalie for a long term time. I'll let you throw in a couple teams as I try to remember everybody.
One of my top three teams that you haven't mentioned yet are the Nashville Predators. Absolutely playing great hockey. After they lost to, I know they beat the Islanders twice. They got shut out by the Calgary Flames. They've since beat Winnipeg, and they beat somebody else last night, I believe, or the night before. They looked pretty good since. I know they've won a couple games since, but that game against Winnipeg, man, it was intense, and Pekka Rinne and that defense looked like they were serious for it, for sure. I would say Nashville. I'm going to go – I'm not sold yet on Carolina or Toronto, but I would say Nashville's definitely there. And I'm going to say Anaheim's pretty close to being there right now. Because as they start getting guys back, I know Silverberg left the game the other night, and you had mentioned him. I don't think he's seriously hurt, but I know Getzlaf should be back soon. Kessler just came back into the lineup. They've got guys like Corey Perry and Patrick Eaves and others that are still going to be coming back. So when they get to full strength, it's going to be interesting to see how well they're playing.
Yeah, the San Jose Sharks would be another team. That would be the last one that I'd throw out there. Strong offense, even though with the Joe Thornton injury, but guys like Evander Kane and Logan Couture and the guys on the back end continue to impress. Even though they had that loss against New Jersey last night, that's another high-powered team that continues to roll.
That was a great game last night as well. We were treated with some beauties. What about your three worst teams right now in the league? And I can't put Ottawa into that category because they looked good the other night when they won 5-1.
Well, the Arizona Coyotes have to be in there. They got shut out again, and it's not for like a lack of effort. They've been getting like 30-plus shots a goal per game, and I think they've only scored in one of their games, I believe.
Yeah.
Shut out in the rest. So
they're really missing Alexander Galchenyuk right now.
Yeah, and at least on the Galchenyuk front, he returned to practice for the first time this week. And they also have guys like Christian Dvorak, who hasn't played yet this year. So some of their more offensive skilled players haven't yet played yet. But not. It's like you can get all the shots that you can, but if you can't score, that's going to put you right at the bottom of the list. Another team would be trying to remember. Oh, yeah.
While you think about it, I was going to throw in the Detroit Red Wings. As much as I love Hockey Town and the Detroit Red Wings, although I heard they took Hockey Town down from the city because they haven't been Hockey Town the last few years. They've really struggled out of the gate with the young core that they have.
Yeah, because as I remember the Detroit Red Wings, the goaltending hasn't been great. I know Bernier actually was in for that entire 8-goal game against Boston. I know Jimmy Howard hasn't been bad for them, and a couple of their losses have come in overtime. But they're a young, growing team, learning to win, and especially with the loss of Henrik Zetterberg. And with all the injuries on their defense, guys like Mike Green and Trevor Daley and all those guys that have been in and out of the lineup to start the season, that's been a really, really rough start there.
Yeah, they even have DeKaiser and Chalowski listed right now as day-to-day. That defense is really banged up in Detroit.
And then another team here that I would put on the back. Well, the Edmonton Oilers, I think, so you always got to throw out the Oilers when you're talking about bad hockey teams. McDavid continues to do his thing, but he needs some secondary support. It's just, I know Oilers fans, it's just like, oh, it's like we got the guys or whatever, or it's like, if you look at the Taylor Hall and Jordan Everly trades, it's just like they traded away some high offensive guys, and their defense hasn't been the greatest. And Cam Talbot, I know he finally got his first win against the Rangers, but he has not looked great to start the season. Hopefully, Draisaitl can start to get his game going. Because it looks like it's like if you throw somebody with McDavid, they look great, and then as soon as they go by themselves, it's like they just start to struggle. Especially with some of the preseason, some of those guys had it looked like there was going to be some hope going into the season with guys like Kolyarvi and Ty Ratty and Yamamoto. All those guys having great preseasons, but as we know, we've seen with many players that have had great preseasons and then just fall out as soon as the season starts.
Yeah, for me, one of my top three bottom teams right now are the Florida Panthers. 0-2-1 to start the year. They don't have anybody on their team that has more than one goal. Guys like Mike Hoffman, Barkov, Davidoff, all these guys need to step up if Florida wants to be successful. And they just, for a team that's only played 3 games over the first 2 weeks or so, they look really sluggish and need to pick it up. So I think the Oilers might pick it up. Although a weird stat that I heard the other day was Connor McDavid's been in on every goal that they've scored so far this season. And that, man, talk about relying on one guy to carry the load. They need to figure out, guys like Lucic and Draisaitl and all the supporting guys need to learn how to step it up there. So final thoughts on our show today before we end it.
Yeah, so just some other some news and facts around the league. Joe Pavelski got his 700th point against the Flyers on the weekend. He becomes only the 5th player to be drafted 200th or later in an NHL draft to get over 700 points. He was drafted 205th in that great 2003 draft class. So congrats to him. Also, Marco Dano got picked up off waivers by the Colorado Avalanche today. Justin Schultz will be out 4 months for the Pittsburgh Penguins with a fractured ankle. And if you see that replay, that did not look good.
That reminded me of the Joe Theismann football injury.
No, but it looks like Matt Murray could return to the net tomorrow against the Canucks as they've sent down Tristan Jarry. So it looks like that concussion subsided really, really quickly. And hopefully we get the Murray-Besser matchup from last season. So that'll make up for the Patterson injury as of right now. But yeah, I think that's about all the news. And Thomas Plekanec is playing in his 1,000th career NHL game. So congrats to him. I know around with all the NHL guys getting older, it's really tough to get that 1,000th game mark. And I believe Duncan Keith also reached that mark on the weekend for the Blackhawks.
Yeah, so congrats to those guys. Remember to like and share and comment on our Facebook page. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. We love bringing this to you each and every time. We're now going to be on the air Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, just so we have a little bit more to talk about and bring you more variety. Continue to give us your comments about your favorite NHL teams. We know we got big diehard New Jersey Devil fans, Detroit Red Wing fans, Chicago Blackhawk fans, Toronto Maple Leaf fans that follow us, along with, of course, many Vancouver Canuck fans because of the market that we're in. But we love talking about every single team and the league in general. So continue to leave your comments, continue to interact with us. We love every minute of it. And we'll be back on Wednesday with the next episode of B&B Hockey Talk. Thanks for joining us. For Aaron Bloxel and Matt Balzer, have a fantastic rest of your evening, and we'll see you guys Wednesday.